Okay, 3 weeks ago we started looking at Matthew 28 and we looked at the last thing as the apostles went back to Galilee and met with Jesus, met Jesus there, and one of the final things he told them then was go into all the world, make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey all the commands I've given to you. And we talked a couple of weeks ago about we're pretty good about baptizing, maybe not so good about discipling. And how do you disciple a person to grow closer to Jesus? Sometimes we have a tendency, we take a person through the study process and we baptize them by immersion for remission of sins, and we have a tendency to just leave them alone and expect them to grow on their own and to become a strong disciple of Jesus. And sometimes that process does not work very well. And we are trying more and more to be very intentional about discipling people, discipling the souls of new Christians, and also discipling one another, that we might all grow closer to God in a personal relationship with Him, so that when struggles happen, that we don't only depend on Jesus, but we can depend on each other for spiritual guidance. But one of the last things he told them, you go teach them to obey all the commandments I have given you. And I was thinking one day, well, what would that look like? What would it look like if just to obey? And all of my life, I grew up in the church in Western Oklahoma, and all my life, everything, let me retract, nearly everything we counted on as far as deciding whether we were in God or out of God, or in walking in light with God or not walking in light with Jesus, was based on what happens during the 2 hours we're together in this auditorium or in this building. And I got to looking at the commands that Jesus gave His apostles to go teach others, and there's not one thing in there other than Jesus taught them about communion. Nothing about worship service other than communion. Not what Jesus taught them directly. And we do pretty good about taking care of one another in here and being... Never mind, don't let me say that. We're pretty good about that. But when we leave these doors, when we leave the confines of this building, what about then? What about the commands Jesus told His apostles? You go teach them to obey everything I have commanded you. Last week we were in Matthew 5. And we ended with, you have heard that the ancients were told, you shall not commit murder. This is Matthew 5:21. If you want to turn there, I'm going to pick back up there. I think I saw something in this passage while I was studying this week that I'd never seen before. And when I reveal that to you, you all probably going to say, well, yeah, dummy, it's been there all along. Why didn't you pick up on that? But anyway, I'm going to do it anyway. Matthew 5:21. You have heard that the ancients were told, you shall not commit murder, and whoever commits murder shall be liable to the court. But I say to you, everyone who is angry with the brother shall be guilty before the court, and whoever says to his brother, you good for nothing, shall be guilty before the Supreme Court, and whoever says, you fool, shall be guilty to go into the fire hell. Therefore, if you are presenting your offering at the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your offering there before the altar and go first, be reconciled to your brother, and then come and present your offering. I've attempted to teach this over and over and over again. If you're at the altar and you remember your brother has something against you, you do what? You go reconcile with your brother. And we talked about, and today we know at that time they were presenting their gift at the altar under the old law. They would present a gift at the altar. And Jesus says if you do that and you remember your brother has something against you, you go and make things right with your brother, reconcile with your brother, and then come back and give your gift at the altar. And I have really hammered that and hammered that and hammered that. Who is the teaching for in this passage? Huh? What?
To the believers.
It's for believers. He says, if you remember your brother has aught against you, you go and make things right. So anyone outside the fellowship that has aught against you, you don't have to worry about them. Is that correct? Well, why wouldn't it be correct if it says if your brother has aught? By exclusion, it would exclude everybody else, wouldn't it? No? Who's the recipient of receiving you going to make reconciling with your brother? Who's the recipient of that? And I've always taught that, I am. But let's go back and read 21. You have heard that the agents were told you shall not commit murder, and whoever commits murder shall be liable to the court. But I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother shall be guilty before the court. And whoever says to his brother, you good for nothing, shall be guilty before the Supreme Court. And whoever says to you, fool, you shall be guilty enough to go into fire hell. Therefore, go make things right. I've always taught, if I know someone has something against me, and I go to make things right, I go and apologize, and I say I blew that, or whatever the situation, and I try to make things right with them, I'm the recipient of that. And that is partially the teaching. Who else is the recipient of it?
Even if somebody outside,
Okay.
you still are supposed to go and reconcile. If you've done something against that person outside the
Okay, Norman says even if it's somebody outside the church, you've done something against someone outside the church, you still go to reconcile. What's the teaching in that? What about and several people said, no, that doesn't excuse it. The reason that doesn't excuse, Jesus also says, let your light shine. If we do not make things right with those outside the body, how is our light shining? That's one reason we go and make things right with those who are not even in the church. But the thing is, you have a fellow that he says that, you've heard it said if you commit murder, you're guilty of sin. But I tell you what, if you're angry with your brother, now there's all level of anger. But it dawned on me when I was looking at that, another recipient of this is the person, am I yelling? Sound to me like thank you, Joe, I appreciate it. If another recipient of this whole thing is the person that is so angry with you, he hates you. Now, what's his situation as far as salvation if he holds anger in his heart toward you? What is his situation with God? He has no relationship with God How can you say you love God and hate your brother? Another recipient of this is the person that you reconcile with, that you calm his anger to the point he no longer hates you. So there's two people that receive forgiveness in this whole situation, the offender and the offended. But anger is a dangerous, dangerous thing. And if you know of someone today that is in this assembly that is so angry with you that they don't care, they call you a fool, they're in danger of hellfire. If you know of someone that is that angry with you, that is keeping them from having a relationship with Jesus Christ, there's two reasons you need to make things right with that person. One is for your own soul, because you've sinned against that person. And the other reason is so that that person can do away with their anger and be right with God. There's two teachings in that passage. Both is for the offended and one is for the offender. Yes. That's correct. Gloria said if someone is outside of Christ and they're so angry with you and you go make things right with them, they're going to tell other people of your Christ-like attitude. And that is letting your light shine before men as Christ let his light shine. So how do you handle the situation where a person is just you've hurt their feelings? I've actually heard people say that one person has something against another person and they feel like they've been offended, and this person, and they can't work it out. I've tried to talk to the offender, and the comment was, oh, they're just so immature. Let them go over it. Do what? And Gloria said that's an immature accounting. You can't. If somebody tells you, you really hurt my feelings, it is your Christian obligation to hear them out. It does not matter what your intent was when you said it or how you acted or reacted to the situation. It is in the person's mind that was offended that is all that matters at that point. If it's destroying their relationship with Jesus Christ, it is your obligation as a Christian to make things right. Deanie? Okay. And Deanie brings up a good point. There are some situations, would you say there are some situations irreconcilable? Okay, on the other person, you go and try to make things right, and the person, they just don't want to have anything to do with you. What can you do about that? Yes. Yeah, Matthew 18, there's two parts to that. Good point. We won't get there. Matter of fact, I only have today and next week, and then we're going into another teacher. Matthew 18, go ahead and right. And tell me your name again. You've been here several times, and I'm sorry. Mark? Okay. Matthew 18 is the other side of this coin, and he brings up a good point here. And when what that passage says is that if someone offends you, you go to them, and if you can't work that out, you take another brother with you, and if you still can't work it out, you take it before the church. Is the reasoning behind that whole passage? So, okay, Mel offends me. No, that actually happens when we play golf together. Let me use somebody else. Somebody offends me, and I go to them and I try to work it out. And then they say, they blow it off. They say, oh, you're immature, blah, blah, blah. And so I take another person, and that person convinces them they need to apologize. Is that for my benefit, so that I feel better about it, or is it for the offender? But yeah, I feel better about the situation because he made it right with me. But the offender is the one that's holding the grudge. They're the ones that need to apologize. They're the ones that need to make things not only right with me, but they need to make things right with God. And the only way they can make things right with God is to make things right with me first. And I've never seen a situation where it's been if that happens, then it's taken before the church. Have any of you ever experienced that? You have. Now, I'm not talking about disfellowshipping. Mark, I appreciate you bringing that up. Right. Bob said, for those who are listening online, Bob said God does not want us to stay in that toxic situation. And he doesn't want us to stay in any toxic situation. So, and go ahead, and so what do you do then? A person apologizes, and okay, you offend me and you come and apologize to me, and I said, well, yeah, he did that. And I'm talking to Tim about the situation. You know Bob Palmer, yeah, well, he did this. Well, yeah, he apologized, but I know good and well he didn't mean it. So what's my attitude? And I think you're right. And Danny made that cut. Sometimes things are not going to be reconcilable. Did you hear what Bob said? You're a smart lady. So Ken, Ken says that if you put it in writing, it's liable to do a lot more. It's liable to be a lot more effective. Is that right? Yeah. Put it in writing. Now, a person says they can't work it out. They come to me and said, "We can't work it. Would you go with us?" And I go to the person, and the person says, "Do you realize how humiliating that's going to be for me to have to apologize to that jerk?" Well, first of all, we need an attitude adjustment. Gloria? Okay, Noah? Oh, okay. One of those guys was on a boat. Right. 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 And we know what Jonas, where he spent 3 nights. So that. Right. The thing about humiliation, if you know someone has anger against you, and you know you've done them wrong, but you cannot bring yourself to going to apologize and reconcile with that brother because you think it's going to be so humiliating. I want you to think about something. We talked last week and the week before about the whole reason Christ came to earth was to reconcile who? The Jews to the Gentiles. His death was the only way, and his resurrection was the only way he's going to bring those two parties together. If you think you can get by with the excuse of not apologizing, making things right with a brother because it's going to humiliate you, you think about the humiliation our Savior went through at the cross. Pride is a good thing in some ways, but it's an evil thing. Lowell? Right. Okay, Lowell mentioned, and that's in 1 Corinthians what? 1 Corinthians 11, he mentions the person that is being contentious. And what does he advise you do to the contentious person? But you do what you can, and you pray. Well, and we're going to look at a passage about praying for your enemies here in a minute. And then there's nothing else you can do to reconcile that situation. Right. Well, and the thing of making things right with others, you don't have to like me, but you have to love me to the point that you want to see me in heaven someday. And if you're not willing to put away your pride and humble yourself to the point of making things right with me, or me making things right with you, it's not about what we do in this auditorium. That is some of it. But the way we treat each other, we're going to stand in judgment by the way we treat each other and for the way we treat each other. It's going to be a whole lot bigger deal than what we do in this auditorium. Now, if, Joe, did you have... Okay, all right. Joe said there's people that look for reasons to be offended. And that's true. Some people, I think they wear their feelings on their sleeve. And that's a true statement. But Lord, another passage to go along with the contentious person, you do what you can. Where's the passage that says, this is wrongly paraphrased, but with everything you have in you, you be at peace with everyone. There's a passage that I quote that so bad you can't remember. It's being at peace with, you go out of your way, as far as it's possible, you be at peace with one another. Any other comment? Let's move. We're not going to get through the things that Jesus. Let's look at 27. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery, but I say to you, everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye makes you stumble, tear it out. Therefore, throw it from you. For it is better for you to lose one of the parts of your body than for your whole body be thrown into hell. And if your right hand makes you stumble, cut it off, and therefore throw it from you. For it is better for you to lose one of your parts of your body than your whole body to enter into hell. Now, if we all believed that, there was a lot of us would be running around with one eye and one arm. If we really took that passage, what's he teaching here? Another thing he's teaching that says it's better for you to enter with in the whole body go to hell. It's better for you to enter heaven with just one eye or one arm. Does the body go to heaven? 1 Corinthians teaches that we will all be changed. We will all have a new. So did Jesus not have any idea what he was talking about here? All right. Mel said he's saying that sin is very serious. We flippantly do things that we would be appalled at a few years ago. Why? because the center of influence is the outside world more than it is Jesus Christ. Things are acceptable today that we would have never accepted a few years ago. And this thing about anyone who, I tell you, it's wrong to commit adultery. Anyone who looks at a woman with lust, we kind of skate over that. Andy Griffith's show is about the only show you can watch on TV and not be tempted to lust today. And I'm not even sure about that when he kisses a school teacher. Bob? And well, and Bob gives a reference for those of you who couldn't hear that he and Carolyn used to have a lot of people over from church to watch the fireworks. They live across from Eldon Park. And I think I read into that this 4th of July, he's inviting all of us to his house to watch fireworks. I think that's what I heard in that. But there was a fella passed out on the front lawn of his house at his property, and a fellow member of the church came and said, "There's a fella passed out, and I cannot help him because I'm a recovering alcoholic, and if I even smell alcohol, it drives me to go drink." And Bob's point in that, we avoid the appearances of all evil. So you're telling me then I can't have any fun in my life at all? And sin is fun. Yeah, sin is fun. But the seriousness of how we live our lives before Jesus Christ is a big, big deal. The way we treat one another, the way we treat others, what we allow to creep into our lives or what we abstain from is a big thing. And the world's outside influence has become so great. I meant to start with it. By the way, we talked last week about AI and the artificial intelligence, and one of the guys I listened to on there, Eric Erickson, made the comment, the problem with AI is it's going to outsmart us. And I was talking to somebody this week who does a lot of reading on that, and they said that one of the guys that helped develop some of the AI programs, he said, we're already at the point we're not going to be able to control it. It will control us someday. But Eric Erickson's point is AI is good in some things, but it cannot judge the value of a soul. He said that is completely taken out of the equation. Joy got a text last week, and I don't know whether it was AI or what. We get a lot of scam calls. She got a text that just said, Mom, I've been in a car wreck. My phone's been destroyed. Would you call this number? I need help. And immediately she deleted it. But then immediately she called Amy to make sure she was okay. We have a friend in Edmond that a few months ago got a call, and there was a voice, sounded just like her grandson, said, Grandma, I'm in trouble. I need your help. And you need to meet some people and give them $20,000 and they'll let me go. She went to the bank, gave them $20,000, and her grandson was all right all the time. Just be careful. That has nothing to do with the lesson today, but just be careful. So you received a call. Well, they had this grandson's voice identical to, it sounded just like him on the phone. That's the reason she was so willing to try to get him help. Anyway, let's someone else have a comment? Oh, I'm sorry, BJ. Right. Right. BJ makes a good point. If you get that scam call, just hang up, or better yet, don't even answer it, because if you answer it, they know it's a live line. So don't even answer it. Is a better thing yet. Oh. Right. So, Reagan? Oh. Now, Reagan may have a good answer to that. She said when she gets a scam call, she says, I'm with Oklahoma City Police Department. How can I help you? So that might end that. So. That is a very poor answer. Okay. 31. It was said, whoever sends his wife away, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that everyone who divorces his wife, except for the reason of unchastity, makes her commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. This is a whole study for another time. I've had more than 3 or 4 divorced women tell me that while they were going through the divorce, and for a long period of time after the divorce, they were made to, and this is in the church, they were made to feel like they didn't exist. We have really messed that up. The answer to that whole marriage, divorce, and remarriage question is in 1 Corinthians 7. The whole, I wish we all answers the questions. Now, what you wrote me about, I wish we had the questions they wrote to him. But the answer to that is in 1 Corinthians 7. But I hope it's never said that a lady that is going through a divorce, and especially a lady who's going through a divorce, and because she's put up with the physical and emotional abuse for as long as she can possibly take it, and now her kids are in danger of their very lives. She has no choice but to get out of that situation. I hope we're never accused of making that lady feel like she's no part of this body. That's wrong. Just wrong. All right. Deanie said anybody that does that is setting themselves up as a judge and jury. And we're going to look at a passage later about do not judge. The same way you judge, you will be judged. Divorce is a bad thing. But divorce does not negate salvation with our Savior. And if anybody'd like to discuss that, I'd be happy to discuss it with you. But let's not be accused of letting a woman and her poor children feel like they are no longer part of this body because of that situation. That's not right. We'll pick up in Matthew again next week. Lanny Tucker, his name Tucker? Lanny Tucker will be here the 31st with EEM. He always gives an excellent presentation. He will be here for class that day. And Bob is going to start teaching the first week in September. And we may eventually come back to the commands, obey everything I've taught you. You teach them to obey what I've taught you. So appreciate your comments. Thank you.